Welcome back to another episode of the Celtics Roundtable Podcast on the CLNS Newsfeed. With me to talk about a variety of Celtics topics, we have Jonathan Levy and Matthew Ignaw. There seems to be a three-team race for that first-place finish between Cleveland, Washington, and the Celtics. Cleveland, as of now, has the best record with a 2.5-game lead over both Washington and Boston with about 15 games left to go for all sides. The Celtics, however, have the easiest remaining schedule, while the Wizards are the hottest team out of the bunch. Levy, with the playoffs approaching, how do you see the picture shaping up in the East?
I think it's going to go down Cleveland 1, Boston 2, Washington 3. Washington gets a little bit unlucky that the Celtics have got this cake schedule the rest of the way. The next three games for you fans out there, versus Minnesota, at Brooklyn, at Philadelphia. That's the Embiid-less Philadelphias, so that's pretty good. I don't expect Cleveland to surrender a 2.5-game lead unless they just stop caring. Like if LeBron decides to take 2 weeks off here to prepare for the playoffs, and because they don't care about the number one seed, fine. But otherwise, I expect Cleveland to hold on to this lead. They're just a little bit too good. LeBron is still the best player in the world. You know, what are you going to do? And the Celtics, I think, are going to be able to hold off Washington, although as we are recording this, they are tied at 2.5 games back behind the Cavs. But Washington's schedule is just tougher. They do play each other on March 20th, but even if Washington wins that game, it's just going to be very difficult. The Celtics only have one other game for the rest of the way against an above 500 team. I expect the Celtics just to have a very strong close of the season.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. They play the Nets twice more. They get Phoenix at home. I'd be very surprised if they blew another one to Phoenix. Their away games are against the Sixers, the Knicks, and then the Hawks and Hornets, but they seem to do well against the Hornets at least. Yeah, you could theoretically see if the Celtics play strong on this final stretch, they could walk into the playoffs with just another loss or two. On that, that's how easy the schedule is coming up. Wizards, it's not nearly quite as nice. It's not terrible, but they do play the Cavs and the Warriors and the Jazz down the stretch. Hawks too, so Clippers as well. So yeah, I mean the Wizards are hot right now. I can easily see them winning most of those games. I think it's going to be close, but there's going to be a huge game on the schedule on the 20th when the Wizards come to play Boston, and that one's definitely going to be circled.
If I'm Ty Lue, I'm giving LeBron some much-deserved rest over these next 15 to 18. I think they have 18 left. They don't
Isn't he
need
leading
that.
the league in minutes?
I think so. So they don't need the number one seed. I mean, Cleveland, LeBron, 6 finals in the last 6 years. He pretty much walks there. He's the best player in the NBA. I don't see the need to get that number one seed. The Wizards have a tougher schedule. And, I mean, the Raptors are too far behind. Obviously, aside from the Cavs, it's the Wizards. They have matchup problems against the Celtics, the hottest team in basketball, so I think they could really make a push. But the Celtics have the easiest schedule, and it's not just those 3 games. 8 of their next 11 at home, and something like almost 75% of the remaining games are against below 500 teams. I honestly think Boston's going to climb to that number 1 spot and play a number 8 seed. Maybe the Chicago Bulls, where I really feel like the Celtics would have some nice odds against them.
Well, the Chicago Bulls look like they have given up. If Sunday's game was any indication. My God, Jimmy Butler I've never seen him so passive. But, yeah, I'm looking here. 538 has the Celtics at a 39% chance at the top seed. They have them pegged at a final record of 53-29. So they're just predicting 4 more losses for the Celtics over this stretch. On the contrary, the Wizards, 13% at that top speed. They're predicting 51-31 from them. So they're predicting the Celtics to win fairly easily. Cleveland, 48% of that top seed. 538 also predicts them to have a 53-29 record along with the Celtics. So,
well, if 538 says it, it must come to fruition, right?
That's right. Oh, that hurt.
That's a burn.
No, going back to the Bulls real quick. I heard this morning on Larry H. Russell, CLNS's own Larry H. Russell, on his show talk about how he wouldn't want to play Chicago in the first round. That was the one team he wouldn't want to play. He was saying it on a podcast with Leon Poe. And honestly, I just don't see Chicago, especially after a terrible performance like this, but I don't see them being any sort of threat. I mean, Chicago just doesn't have the horses, right?
I mean, I'm assuming Chicago's going to at least try in the playoffs. That might be the difference.
They'll probably try. The only team that I would have any concern about whether the Celtics have the 1, 2, or 3 seed is the Miami Heat, who currently are not even in the top 8, but they're going to be. They're half a game out right now behind Milwaukee. Miami's been playing like crazy good for the last month and a half after being one of the worst teams in the league. They're only 2 games under 500 now. I think at one point they were 11-30. They're now 32-34. I mean, it's insane how good they've been playing. I don't know. That may be a freight train we don't want to get anywhere near. But I don't, if we're the number 1 seed or the number 2 seed, we may just be playing the Miami Heat. That's the only team. I think the Pistons, the Bucks, the Pacers, the Bulls. If somehow the Hornets get in, the Celtics are going to beat all those teams in the first round.
I mean, I'm afraid of Giannis just taking another leap or something forward in the playoffs, just being get out of my way. But yeah, the Celtics should be pretty clearly, maybe heavy favorites. I'm thinking against all these potential teams.
I get the Heat are doing incredible things, and credit to Eric Spoelstra for propelling when you look up and down that roster, a bad team to potentially make the playoffs after a terrible start. But I'm not afraid of them. I mean, Isaiah Thomas seems to have Goran Dragic's number.
Yeah,
I know
Goran Dragic has his number too.
Yeah, but
he's had some monster games against the Celtics.
Isaiah's got that chip on his shoulder. Dragic took his spot. He got the time. He started over Isaiah.
That's old news.
And Kelly Olynyk, the Celtics have a great way about making Hassan Whiteside irrelevant.
Right.
Another question, a running theme that we've had since the beginning of this podcast has been this year for the Celtics has sort of a ceiling on it because the Cavs are going to win the East and the Warriors are going to win the West. So as we're talking about the seeding and things like that, even if the Celtics were to get the number 1 seed, I guess my question to you guys is, how much does it really matter? Do you think it really swings anything if they're the 1 or the 2 versus the 3?
I think so, particularly against the Wizards. If they were to get in a 2-3 matchup against the Wizards, something like that, I think I'm just gonna favor the team that has home court advantage in that situation, regardless of who it is. So I think there's a big help there. Obviously, it's definitely a help against the Cavs too if they have home court advantage in a 1-2 playoff series or something like that. The Cavs are still going to be heavy favorites pretty much so long as LeBron's healthy. But if Kevin Love's not himself, KYRIE tends to get banged up. He's had a pretty healthy year for his standards. The Celtics have at least something of an outside shot, maybe. Am I being a little optimistic? My inflection, even?
Well, does home court for Washington really mean – is it the same as home court for Toronto or Boston? Washington does not have good fans. Most of the people in Washington are not from Washington and are probably just there because they can afford the ticket. Is it the same?
I mean, the Celtics haven't won in Washington this season, I don't think.
Very few teams have.
I don't know if it really matters. And the Washington Wizards at home are 26-9. I mean, that's pretty good.
Hey, here's an argument against that 1 seed. The Raptors might have the most talent out of all of these teams, and Kyle Lowry being out has killed them. They're 38-28 right now. That's just a game ahead of the Hawks. So we'll see. But they should be the 4 or the 5 seed. I don't know if the Celtics want that number 1 seed to go up against the Raptors. I think I'd favor the Raptors if Kyle Lowry comes back and is himself again.
Aren't we just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic a little bit, though, talking about, who gets the privilege of getting beaten by the Cavs? I mean, it feels like that's oh, no, they might lose in the second round here or they might win that. I mean, it's cool. I want them to go as far as possible and all that. But it's the expectations are just can only go so high, it feels like, for this team right now. And I guess everything could break perfectly, and they could win the East if LeBron, falls off an airplane or something like that. But besides that, they're just not getting out of the East, right?
I'm holding out some hope. If the Cavs get matched up with the Celtics eventually, I'm going to be on Optimist Island.
I mean, it's all about Kevin Love's health because LeBron, if Kevin Love, let's say, is not himself or doesn't play, LeBron's made the finals with worse squads, yet he's also made it with better. And the Raptors got 2 from him. I know it wasn't LeBron during Game 5 said that this wasn't a challenge or something like that, but the Celtics match up well with the Cavs. Avery Bradley, I mean, look no further than Avery Bradley on Kyrie Irving. If Kevin Love for some reason isn't healthy or JR comes back, I know he's back now, but continues to struggle a little bit, I would not be surprised. I think that's a 6 or 7 game series, and if the bounces go the Celtics' way, who knows?
Yeah, the Celtics got multiple guys who could guard LeBron James. Jay Crowder's obviously a good, strong defender who's probably one of the better defenders against him. And Jaylen Brown has shown a lot of poise in defending him. And Kelly Olynyk! Kelly Olynyk, the LeBron stopper.
I'm just
saying, Levy, we're getting a little crazy here.
Yeah, of course. I mean, the things you guys are saying are basically the things that Brooklyn Nets fans say every single night before every single game. If Brook can just, make a few more threes and play a little better D, we got a shot this game, That's like what we're down to. And that's okay. This is not yet the Celtics' time, but they are rising. They're ahead of schedule, and, it's a wonderful place to be.
Today's Roundtable show is being brought to you by the SeatGeek ticketing app. I recently used SeatGeek for my Red Hot Chili Peppers concert, as well as my Run the Jewels show that I went to recently, and I highly recommend it. SeatGeek is the smartest and easiest way to get tickets to every game. With SeatGeek's seamless mobile experience, you can buy and sell tickets in just 2 taps. And it doesn't end with the Celtics or any other NBA game. SeatGeek also has plenty of concerts, comedy shows, and theater tickets available too, and it's all fully guaranteed. Listeners to CLNS Radio can support this production and get a $20 rebate off their first SeatGeek purchase. Here's how. Download the free SeatGeek app, go to the settings tab and click add a promo code and enter promo code CELTSNEWS, all one word. And SeatGeek will send you $20 after you've made your first ticket purchase. Download the free SeatGeek app and enter promo code CELTSNEWS today.
What are you looking for these last few games out of the Celtics in their playoff push?
I'm looking for the Celtics to stop playing with their food. They need to come out of the gates and beat and blow out some of these teams. They're not playing good basketball teams. They're playing some teams intentionally trying to lose. They got the Timberwolves, the Nets, and the Sixers. That's a big stretch for me. I mean, in the playoffs, if you have a big lead, you need to keep a big lead because despite whether the other team who's down wins the game or not, if they have a really good fourth quarter where they don't win the game but they really play hard, that could propel their confidence for the next game. So I would really like to see the Celtics get some blowout wins under their belt. I mean, Geno time is real. I want to see Geno time. I want to see James Young hit the court. I want to see Demetrius Jackson.
I would like to see the continued emergence of Jaylen Brown. He's had a really nice stretch the last 15 or 20 games. I'd like to see him take the next step, which basically means less turnovers, more in control on transition, and a little bit more confidence and better shot selection in the half court. He's doing pretty well with that, but man, I got to tell you, I'm more comfortable now with Jaylen Brown shooting an open three than I am with him driving to the hoop, which sounds crazy to me because 6 months ago, that was the complete opposite.
For me, I want to see the Celtics. They're playing their best defense of the season over this last stretch. The offense has been a little bit shaky, and we'll ignore the Denver's game.
I was going to say, did you watch that Denver game?
We're going to ignore it for the convenience of my argument here. Yeah, I want to see that continue. I want to see if they can get into teams because that's really going to help them in the playoffs. If they play this loosey-goosey defense style that they played over the first half of the season, then they're going to need Isaiah to get hot. I don't know if you can rely on that for 4 games. They're going to have to win at least a couple games in the playoffs with their defense, and they've done a good job recently, particularly against Cleveland and the Warriors.
I know one thing I wanted to see out of Isaiah was a little more active hands, a little more steals, and over the last week or so, we've seen Isaiah jump routes a little more, get some easy steals, get his hands in the passing lanes, and strip the ball away from some bigger players. So I feel like he's trending upwards in that area where he wasn't really doing that at the beginning of the season, and I feel like it's worth mentioning because Isaiah is great. According to Zaire, he's the greatest player in the world. I don't know if I agree, but definitely up there.
I think that statement's half in jest from the Zaire.
I don't know anymore if it's in jest or not. I can't tell, which is scary to me, quite frankly. I agree, Jonathan. He's definitely doing a little bit more of getting steals. He did that in the Bulls game 2 or 3 times. He's also been working a little harder to try and get offensive rebounds off of his own misses, which he's had some success with in the last 20 games or so. But let's not, put too much lipstick on this pig, man. This guy's the worst defensive player in the league.
All right, that'll do it for us here on the Celtics Roundtable, part of the CLNS newsfeed. Please go on Twitter, give us a like, as well as give us a 5-star review on iTunes. We'll be back tomorrow. For Jonathan Levy, Matthew Ignall, I'm Jonathan Ignall. Sayonara.